I've been asked a million times to give a list of what's on my bike, and I figured the easiest way to go through this would be to have my dogs help tell you about what's on my bike. Actually, let's go through a list here. I've got a list on my phone, and I'm just going to go through this in kind of random order. So first things first, rally seat. I don't think I have to tell you guys, but they are fantastic. Not only do they put you in a better seating position, they are also substantially more cushiony than the stock ones. I noticed after going back and forth that some of the jarring of the stock spring being so stiff is actually absorbed by the rally seat. So really happy with that. They're hard to come by. Once you can get your hands on one, snag one. Unless you're super short, then stick with a stock seat. Behind this panel is a Team MSC ECU tune, and that provided for a lot smoother throttle response, took away all the jerkiness that you may have seen in my other videos. If you want some more details on that, I've made several videos about that, so check out the rest of my stuff on my channel. It also gave it a little bit more power too, I would say. It's well worth $300. I have been asked a lot about my tires. These are Tusk 2-track, front and rear, and they are very hard tires, but they do surprisingly well on the road, and they do really good off-road. So I'm a big fan of these tires for the price that you pay for them. Those are from Rocky Mountain ATV. Let's see, next on the list here. Oh, I have the high front fender, but I'm trying to decide between some different graphics kits, and I peeled the green stripe off my bike, and my dog's not going to rest until we kick the ball to her. So I actually took the high fender back off and put my low rally fender back on. So I'm kind of in between looks here, but I do have that high fender. If you do end up getting that, the OEM one, or the Polysport, I think CFMoto front fender for just general dual sport bikes fits, and you just need the OEM CFMoto high fender bracket and screws to make that work, either aftermarket or stock one. If you get the aftermarket one, you have to drill some holes. I have Barkbusters. This is their VPS system. They are really, really robust. And if you don't like the choice of color, you can always buy these new ones, and they have like 20 different colors of these right here. So they fit on really well. I used the stock ones. Excuse me. I used the universal inch and an eighth ones, and I ended up moving these brackets from the left side to the right side and swapping them around, because in stock form they're supposed to be kind of upside down here. And then they also sell an actual CFMoto Ibex 450 specific one, but at the time it wasn't available, so I ended up with universal. And what I did, if you can see, to make this work is I used my grinder and I put a little bit of a notch in the bar end weight. And that leads me over to, it leads me to kick the ball again to my dog. It leads me over to here. I've got this little throttle lock, and this is the same as the really expensive Kyoko one that I used on my Tenere 700, and I paid well over $100 for. And this is from AliExpress for like $12. I don't know how Kyoko is managing to continue to sell a generic product with their name on it, marked up like 10x. So it just takes the place of the bar weight. I used the stock screw and everything, so it went on there absolutely fine. Let's see, continuing down this list, actually, since we're already here, let's talk about these mirrors. These are the nice CNC kind of, they call them quick flip mirrors, so they're kind of a knockoff of the older Aero design that's been around for a long time. So they will flip in and rotate like that if you want them out of the way, or if you like that kind of more sleek look, or you just flip them out if you're riding in traffic and you want a little bit more visibility. So I like that. I've been happy with those. I have had to tighten this quite a few times and take these off and clean that out, clean the dirt out, and to keep it from moving around and tighten it down. So what else do we have on my list here? So, Raid Garage foot pegs. And while I was at Raid Garage shopping, I got the levers too, and I'll tell you about that. So the foot pegs here, so these are wider, they're wider, they're longer, and they're actually lower by 20 millimeters. So that helped a lot. And I also replaced these set screws. The ones they come with are 10 millimeters, and I replaced them with some from Amazon. They're M4 by 8 millimeter because these are the cleats, and these things just, the 10 millimeter was just dig into your boots, man. It just shred the bottom of your boots. It's just unnecessarily aggressive. So I got those, and then while I was at it, I got the short levers here, the Raid Garage short levers, and I really like those. I'm a big fan of short levers, and these are really good, and they're positioned really well. The one thing I'll say is that I did do is there's an adjuster screw that you can see right here, and that adjuster screw, I had to trim the length of that overall screw down some to get it to sit flush in there and to get it to sit right. Let's kick the ball to the dog so she'll shut up. All right, moving on. I have some generic AliExpress side pannier racks not installed at the moment. They were like 75 bucks, and if you just go to like AliExpress and type in side racks, CFMoto, Ibex 450, you'll find them in spades. I also bought this plastic piece right here. These are $15 each side, I think, from CFMoto OEM parts. And so I have a set that has a hole cut out for those side racks, and I have a set that when I'm not using those side racks that I have on that doesn't have the hole in there. So I really like that setup. All right, moving on. Talked about the side pannier racks. So what I did with the back here is I didn't like the big stock rack on the rear, but I still wanted grab handles. So what I did is they have some lightweight compact grab handles. Again, these are AliExpress. I replaced it with those, but when you remove the stock grab handles, you remove the mount for the rear rack. So you got to do something for a rear rack if you want that. So this rear rack right here that you see is a maybe $20, $30 nice CNC brand generic fender rack. If you just type in nice CNC fender rack, you'll find this. And all I did was drill a hole here and drill a hole here and get some screws and spacers from the hardware store. And I really like the way that sits on there, and I like the profile of it. It gives it kind of that, it maintains that kind of like dirt bike look to the rear, right? I have a generic tail tidy from AliExpress, I think. I want to say it was like $10 or $12. And it did mount up. I will say it does not fit perfectly. If you can see this gap right here, it doesn't fit exact, but it's good enough for $15 versus $150 for the Yoshimura one. And then the lights mounted to it. They're not the perfect angle. You can see they kind of pinch in. I guess they could be bent, so it's not a perfect design, that's for sure, but it certainly is a cheap one. Okay, so let's talk about next the WRS windshield. So I got the kind of in-between size WRS windshield. Stock one is about 2.5 inches shorter, and it's also about 2 inches more narrow on the sides. So this does work, and it works really well, and I leave this on most of the time unless I'm doing some serious off-road. I'll put my stock one back on and put it in the low position. Definitely recommend that if you're doing any road time. It definitely helps. Next on the list here, crash bars. Okay, so I get asked about these a lot because they're nice and small and compact, and you can see that they've done their job here before. So these are hard to find. I got these when Uncle Wang's shop was still shipping to the U.S. with pre-tariff stuff. So you can still buy these at Uncle Wang, but you have to buy them, you have to email them specifically and pay express freight shipping. Now what I will say is they did not fit very well. I had to grind quite a bit of stuff off of the bottom mount piece. I had to wallow out the top screw hole, and they still, I kind of had to bend them into place. So I was not real happy with the fit of those, and I think what I would say is if I had it to do all over again, I'd probably either put no crash bars and just buy these side pieces at $60 a piece or something like that when I tear them up, or I would buy a full wrap crash bar. And I think what we've found generally with most of the people in the group is that the generic Amazon, AliExpress, eBay sort of stuff, about 50% of people have problems getting them to fit right. It seems like the Outback Motor Tech, the SW Motec, all those, the B&B stuff, all that stuff fits really well. But it's also 2 or 3 times as much expensive. So let's talk about the skid plate. So this is another item that is from Uncle Wang, and it was again ordered pre-tariff, but you can find this generically on Amazon and AliExpress and eBay. It fits pretty well. You just kind of have to push it into place a little bit and then put your screws in. Keep the screws loose one at a time, and then one at a time get them tightened up. I did not like how exposed the exhaust was, so I did put this kind of intermediate protection here that goes all the way up to the top right here. So that's just, again, another little AliExpress item. I have a little CFMoto OEM brake caliper protector, and then I have this little, I think this is from eBay or AliExpress, just a protector for the speedometer sensor on here. So just little things like that. Same thing here, this is just a brake reservoir protector that's from AliExpress. Same thing here, just a brake reservoir protector from AliExpress. I have also done EBC brake pads front and rear, and they do make a significant difference in stopping power. They're smoother, they are grabbier, so they initiate quicker and they don't fade. So I mean, it's like less than $50 and it's an easy DIY sort of thing. So highly recommend the EBC brake pads. Inside the clutch, I have EBC part number, I just looked these up for somebody, CSK 104 clutch springs. These are for a KTM 890 or 790. And the stock springs had a tendency to kind of weaken, if you will, and they end up being shorter on some bikes. If you take them out and measure them, they end up being shorter than the minimum specifications, and that leaves you kind of wearing out clutch plates. And while you're in there replacing clutch plates, or clutch springs, you might as well put new plates on because you don't know how far worn down that those springs. If you had the problem with those springs, not every bike has them. If you had the problem with those springs, you might as well put new plates in while you're in there. And those are, you can find them. They are the same plates that go in any CFMoto 450 motorcycle. They go in the 450 SS, the MT, the Ibex 450, obviously, and the NK and SR. It's all the same, and they're about $60 for a plate set, and it's just drop in. I definitely recommend, if you're going to replace the springs to get a little bit better feel, I definitely recommend that you do the plates while you're in there too. All right, underneath the seat is an uni, however you say it, pre-filter. So it takes the place of the snorkel. And then there is also, well, my dog wants to ride the motorcycle, I suppose. There is the pre-filter that takes the place of the snorkel, and then there's also a foam filter that takes the place of the paper filter. I do feel like I got a little bit of a power bump from that. It seems like the pre-filter just catches almost everything. I rarely have to clean the actual foam filter. I just clean the foam pre-filter most of the time. There is on here, on my list, I did not like how much the stock GPS bar moved around, so I bought off of AliExpress again an aluminum GPS mount, and on this I have put a quad lock, and then I also have a CarPlay, which is a CarPlay / Android Auto screen that goes right here, and then I've used the bar mount as well with an anti-vibration adapter and the wireless charging head down here on my bars for my phone. I have also I don't really like this piece, but I ride with a lot of guys on chunky gravel, and they like to get sporty, and it spits up gravel, and we've seen too many broken headlights. So I've got this, again, AliExpress headlight protector, and it does the job. It fits a little bit funky, but that's really one of the few that are out there. There really are no like good fitting, high quality headlight protectors out there. It's right now, it's just something like this. So if you ride gravel and you ride behind people, that's a lot cheaper than an actual headlight replacement should you have that problem. I don't know if I mentioned these or not, but on both sides of the engines, I have these little side covers. Those are from AliExpress as well. They were relatively inexpensive, and they keep the sides of my case from getting scratched up. What else? We're getting down to the finishing touches here. I have this tank protector. I noticed when I was riding mine very early on that it was getting scratched up real easily by me trying to lock my knees in on the tank here. So I put these things on, and these are from these are pre-tariff Uncle Wayne order as well, but you can get these from AliExpress or Amazon or eBay. I've seen them all there. I do know that we found out that some of the really cheap ones, the adhesive on the back was kind of crappy, and make sure you prep the surface really good, and make sure you use a heat gun afterwards to heat it up to make it conform. I get asked a lot about this too. So as you can see, there are bar risers in here. These are 30 millimeter bar risers for 1.1/8 bars. So that's just generic 1.1/8 bar, 30 millimeter risers straight off of Amazon. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of them there on Amazon. And there's nothing special about these bars or clamps that would need them to do anything different. I think some of the finishing touches here would be, I've got some of these spools here for a rear stand, a paddock stand. I've got the kickstand foot enlarger plate, and then I've also got a little protector for the kickstand switch there. That's just a little AliExpress item. In case you haven't noticed, AliExpress is where most of the items are at. And then I also ended up trying quite a few different things for gearing. I tried the 15 tooth on the front and the 14 tooth on the front. And I'm back to the 14 tooth. I tried a couple different rear sprockets. I ended up going 2 teeth larger. This is a 49 tooth sprocket made by JT Racing. It's a pretty standard part number, and they sell it in a bunch of different ones. So it's 2 teeth larger because I have a slightly taller rear tire, and it kind of makes up for that. The last thing I think is on the list here would be my fantastic AliExpress exhaust, what I call the fake Rapovic. It is a matter of you buy, underneath here there's a small mid pipe, and then there's a generic 51 millimeter slip-on, and then it comes with a little side bracket. I really don't care for this side bracket. It's a little cheesy, but it does work fine, and I've dropped the bike on this before and it's held up and not bent in. And you either need to use those on your stock passenger peg brackets, or from AliExpress you can get a passenger peg delete bracket. So that's AliExpress passenger peg delete, and then on the other side, this is what goes on the other side with deleting the other peg. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is about everything that's on there, other than the fact that I've wired in like an SAE 12 volt connector for my battery tender and all that kind of stuff. So, and then I've got these little crash bar protectors right here, and they've done their job. You can see they're nice and scuffed up, so they've taken the hit in several instances. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about it. So I've been asked to do this video quite a few times. I'm sorry it's not a spreadsheet, but that would take way too much time. And what you find on AliExpress is that the sellers change quite often. So if you are having trouble finding something, just say it in the comments, and I will try to find it for you and shoot you a link there for it. So I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just was asked many times to do this video. So man, the bike really turned out well after doing all this stuff, and I really enjoy this motorcycle, and I like to try different motorcycles, and I keep honestly looking for reasons to steer away from it and try something new, but I just can't find it. It does so many things really good, and it would cost so much more to change to a different bike that's just a little bit better in certain areas, but then worse in other areas, like weight, for instance, and ability to touch the ground, for instance, and parts costs and service costs, for instance. So I keep looking for reasons to try something new, but they just aren't there. This really is a high value motorcycle. It is not perfect, but none of them are. So like I said, if you see something on here that I didn't mention, point it out in the comments. If you cannot find something that I've mentioned that you might want, again, point it out in the comments and I will look for a link and send one. And say hi to my dog and say bye to my dogs. Bye, Lulu. Say bye. Say bye, boss. Bye-bye.